Hi there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and blog. It is Shark Week, folks. I'm not sure if you're aware, but it's Shark Week. So what better way to celebrate than by making a shark card? So I'm going to start off by stamping out these adorable images from this Avery Elle set called Sea-Prise. And I am going to use some Neenah 80-pound cardstock along with some Lawn Fawn jet black ink. These are really good for Copic coloring, and that's what I plan to do, is to color all these images with some Copics. So I'm going to use my Mini Misty. It's a stamp positioner, and I'm going to stamp those out. So here's a fun little fact about sharks. Sharks' skin is covered with denticles instead of scales, which are like small razor-sharp teeth that protect the skin from injury. Sharks have very strong senses, making them very successful predators, but one fish that gets the better of sharks is the pufferfish. Isn't that fitting that I stamped out a pufferfish as well? Well, I'm coloring with my Copics, and I'm doing very, very simple coloring. I put the colors up on the screen for you to make that easier in case you wanted to copy those down. I didn't go with a traditional gray for the shark. I went with more of a blue-violet. I thought that would be kind of fun. And then, of course, you got to do red for his mouth. And then I move on for his crown. Of course, needs to be sort of a gold color, or at least a yellow. And then I'm going to move on to coloring our pufferfish, who, according to the internet, gets the better of the shark at times. And as far as my coloring of the pufferfish goes, I just looked up on the internet what pufferfish look like, because I know there's several different varieties, and I chose this fun one who is a little bit more green on top and white on the bottom. And this one actually even has a bit of a teal ring around his eyes. So I'm going to use my At You Spica pen in turquoise. It's a little bit of a glitter pen, and I'm going to color around his eye. At this point, I had forgotten to zoom out my camera, so you're going to get a real good close-up of my Sizzix sidekick. I had tacked down my matching dies over my images and ran those through my sidekick. For my background, I'm going to do something that you've seen me do quite a lot. I'm going to do some ink smushing onto a piece of Canson XL watercolor paper that is 140 pounds. I've been wrong all this time. If you've watched any of my videos lately, I've been saying 110. It's actually 140. I don't know how I didn't catch that. So all I'm doing is laying down color onto my mat there and spritzing it with water, and then I will take that piece of cardstock and I will just squish it onto the ink. And then I will heat it in between, and I will pick up more of those bits, and because I like that water droplet effect. Those first two colors that I had laid down were the Mermaid Lagoon and Peacock Feathers. This time I'm putting down some Blueprint Sketch, and I'm going to do the same thing just by squishing that all over the background, and then I'm going to heat set that. This next color I grabbed is Salty Ocean. You can't very well make a background that's supposed to look like the ocean without some salty ocean, right? Well, you can, but it just seemed fitting, so I laid that down. I'm going to spritz that with some water, and then I'm going to squish my background into that again. And the neat thing about these Distress Oxides is how they layer on each other. You can see the very first bits that I've laid down and the second bits, and it just keeps building on top of each other, and you end up with this amazing background. And the last color I'm grabbing is the Cracked Pistachio, along with one of the other colors that I had already previously grabbed, and I'm going to spritz those and layer those again. In order to make a frame, I've used my Favorite Things Blueprint Sketch number 24, along with the largest rectangle from the Stitched Rec STAX dies, and I'm going to run those through my Big Shot machine. I'll end up with a very nice frame, along with that beautiful panel on the inside, and I'm not going to waste any of that. The only part I'm throwing away is that very edge piece, because I'm not going to be able to use that. For my card base, I have a piece of 4 1/4 by 11 inch Neenah cardstock that I have scored at 5.5 inches to make this a top folding A2 size card, and I'm going to start kind of laying my pieces in there to see how I want to assemble them. For my sentiment, I've grabbed a scrap of watercolor paper, and I am going to stamp my sentiment using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I plan to emboss that using the Simon Says Stamp Ultrafine Clear Embossing Powder. So I'll just coat that with my embossing powder, and then I'm going to heat set that so I can get that powder to melt and it'll make that sentiment really pop. And the sentiment says, "Hope your birthday is swell." How cute and fitting. So I couldn't just have my shark kind of just sitting on top of the background like that. So I grabbed an X-Acto knife and I'm just freehand cutting like a little wave so I can poke him in there. It's really pretty easy. I'm doing this on a glass mat, the Tim Holtz glass mat. And doesn't he look adorable popped out of there? The point in making that little frame around the background there was because I wanted this little shark to be framed, which makes sense, right? So I have backed the frame itself with some foam tape, and I am going to just kind of pop that on top of my card base after I've taken all the backing paper off of my foam tape. I really like this foam tape. I've used several kinds in the past, but this one is probably my favorite. And I'll pop that up, and then I'm going to just kind of stick my shark in. I want to put him in first because he's got to stick through the back. And so I'm using that Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue. And once I have him where I want him, I'm going to use that same glue all over the back of that panel, and I'm just going to place it inside the frame. He fits in there very nicely, and it's a very subtle frame, but it's a little bit of a difference. I ended up trimming down my sentiment off screen. I'm so sorry about that, but I'm going to just tack that down with that same Craft Tacky Glue. I decided on putting it towards the bottom, which you can hardly see because I'm doing it off screen, but you get the picture. And I'm going to grab some Simon Says Stamp mermaid sequins. I recently got these. And this card is going to end up being for a boy, but I'm telling you, I really like these sequins. And I don't add too many. I really wanted to go crazy, but I chose not to. And because I knew it was going to be for a guy. But I don't know, they just add a little something. So he's going to like it, I'm sure of it. So I'm using my crystal katana. And I'm just kind of placing those sequins down where I think I want them. And this pack of sequins, they're so vibrant. And I'm going to use once I've decided how many I want, I'm going to use that same Craft Tacky Glue. Just adhere those puppies down. I'm going to adhere my puffer fish along with his little whatever you call that. What do you call that? It's a birthday blowhorn? I don't know. But I'm going to adhere those using that same Craft Tacky Glue. And then I'm going to end up stamping one more sentiment on the inside. And that sentiment reads, "A little extra puff for all those candles." I think it's cute. So that's going to end up finishing off this card. If you liked it, please hit the like button. And thank you so much for subscribing and commenting and just all that you guys do. I appreciate it. So thanks for stopping by.